with AI, and no matter which conference you went to, if you went to a conference in CMSs, the topic was AI. If you went to a conference about human resources, the topic was AI. Everywhere was AI. So I started to look into AI and edge delivery services, and I've ended up with my presentation today.
Okay, yeah, that's super. Great, and I heard that your presentation is around 40 to 45 minutes, so I would say let's jump into it. Share your screen and then we start. And I think if you have really super urgent questions, please write them into the chat so I can just pick them up. Otherwise, at the end, I mean, it's maybe the best to ask a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So can you see my screen?
Perfect.
Right. So that's a little bit about me on there. I will bring up my slideshow and play from the start. Okay. Hi. Today, I'd like to talk about AI for document authoring with edge delivery services, AI-powered development. I've got a blog which tells you more about these sort of things. I like to share a PDF after the meeting through the channel, so you can all have a copy of the slides. Although we're talking about document authoring with edge delivery services coming soon, I want to make it work inside of Doc. I want to make it work with the Universal Editor. I want to make it work with the Page Editor. I want to make it work with OSGI, and I want to make it work with automated workflows, etc. So today, we're going to share insights on tech leadership and innovation with an AI focus. Why? The challenge. Up development in document authoring, extend it into crosswalk Universal Editor, like I said. My goal is faster prototyping, consistent code, reduced manual effort, automatic documentation, and test. That is the agenda. We're going to go through all of these, what they are, what they are, AI-powered development stack, how did I get here, and some demonstrations. Talk about what's next and future directions. So the AI-powered development stack, I have chosen to use Claude. There are lots and lots of MMLs out there, but the one I played with everything I can get my hands on. I tend to take a subscription out, run it for a few months, decide which one I'm happy with, and then find another one and throw the old one away and cancel my subscription. So I've been going through them all, and I ended up choosing Claude. And I ended up using Cursor AI. Cursor AI is an AI-powered IDE. You have to subscribe to both of these to make it work. $20 a month, and they're well worth it. I also had to do custom training. Basically, you use your AI, your machine learning models and algorithms. This enhances the dev tools, which gives you automatic code generation, and then you give yourself AI-driven testing. Wonderful. It's like having a Medium developer sitting at your side doing what you ask. My end goal, this is a picture of my IDE in action. As I said, I'm using Cursor, but it works exactly the same as Visual Studio Code. It's a fork of Visual Studio Code, and they've added AI facilities into the product, not as a plugin, but as a built-in. And you can see here, I've got a prompt. I would like to create this UI for a newsfeed. I've got an image. It shows the AI what the image looks like, and the prompt and the image are poured into the AI using a tool called the Composer. And it says, certainly, I'll create a set of blocks for Franklin, blah, 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 and then it carries on. So that's my end goal. I started with a simple prompt, going Claude, and I said, create an accordion block for Franklin. It said, I'll create a React component for an accordion block that could be used in a Franklin website. Oh, that's no good. It really doesn't know what Franklin is. I use the term Franklin, by the way. I'm an old timer. Edge delivery services, EDS, Franklin, Helix, all cross out of my lips from time to time. But Franklin is what I type out of my fingertips. I'm so sorry if people don't like that code name. It's built quite heavily into edge delivery services. So this Claude is saying, you're trying to create a Franklin website. It's a website. It probably won't React. Here's a React component. No, that's not what I wanted. So perhaps it didn't like the word Franklin. So I say, create an accordion block for EDS. Certainly, same answer, except this time it thinks EDS is the educational data system. So not very good. I need to train Claude. I decided to create training for Claude. These are context files, files which provide, funnily enough, extra context for an AI. I had previously created a tool which checked websites for SEO. What I did was scrape the site from the homepage. I compared it with the sitemap that the developers have provided, and I did a report on what was missing, what was good, what was bad. They understood Edge Delivery Services, eager, lazy, delayed working, and it gave the page time to settle before it did its DOM scraping. And it extracted the rendered content from the DOM. Now that meant it was ideal for doing Franklin-based pages. I can spec anything that uses any HTML that renders in the browser using my tool, but because it was designed with the things that I knew, it works with Franklin. So I levered the cache to minimize the server load. I refined the code, and I took out all the text from multiple pages and poured them into a single file. So I sent that file to Claude, and long story short, Claude got better, but it needed more. Claude didn't understand how blocks got triggered. It was telling me that I had to go in and amend scripts.js. And the example that Claude created for me said libfranklin.js. And I'm saying, yeah, no, Claude, you need a little bit more than that. It's not a failure. It's the history of what's going on. libfranklin is the old thing. It's now .js, etc. But this was being trained by the Adobe website, and it was a little bit out of date with the knowledge it got in there. So this is a little hint that if an AI understands your website and is returning something slightly wrong, then you need to have a quick look at your website and make some changes. I've written other articles about AI reading websites and how the need for creating structured content is necessary for AI. Anyway, it got better. So I added my blog. I built a lot of articles about developing for document authoring with Edge Delivery Services. So I added that. It contains some examples and some introductory text. It analyzes both the delivered and the rendered HTML and explains what happens. So how do you get from one state to the next? Things like this aren't covered in the Adobe documentation, but you're going in at a very, very high level and a very, very low level, pushing the two together and showing devs how it works and what they need to learn to know how to manipulate the DOM. And I fed that back into Claude. It still didn't really understand things. So I thought, I haven't given enough information. If AI can't comprehend my blog, it's clear that humans would also struggle. So once again, back to the point, fed my blog to the AI and said, do you understand it? It said no. So I went back and wrote part 0. So this is why I did a hello world intro. This helps both AI and humans understand what's going on. So I'm not just saying Adobe have to feed their blog into an AI, and I have to feed my blog into an AI and say, do you understand it? And when it does, you're ready to go. I also added the boilerplate repo, plus a bit more. My thought process, I said, like, blog here, just hello world, back to top, index, etc. I'm feeding my way of building blocks. I wrote all of those samples. So Claude needs a better mentor. So I consolidated and enhanced the JavaScript and CS from the boilerplate GitHub for the blocks. And I added my blocks to the list, and I included readme.md files into the project. Anytime I create a block, I always have a readme.md which explains how the block works, so that somebody working on the project later can get instant documentation in line with my blocks. Oh, I added that. I had 3 files. I had the stuff that I got from aem-live, I got the stuff that I got from my blog, and I got the stuff from my repo. So I concatenated all of these with headers and footers. The headers and footers were things that said to Claude, here is sample blocks, here is sample code, here is training material. And then I created a file called a super context file, and I called it super.out. You can see that in my screenshot there. I've also got a cat.shell that builds it for me, and a readme.txt that explains what I've done. And all of this is in a blog post. I think it's in part 8 of my series. You can download this, get it yourself, build your own, amend what I've done, and carry on. Claude now understands Edge delivery services. It's time to do a demo. Here we are. I go into my AI and I go to Claude, AI chats. I'm going to ask Claude to do something simple for me. I have a Franklin folder where I've got all the things that I want to talk about today in there. So to save me typing live and saying I can't type, because no developer can type, I will say, here's a prompt for Claude. I'm going to go to Franklin and get my all.out file. I'm going to add that as extra content. So this extra content, and if we open this all.out up and have a quick look at it, you will see it's very simple. It's big, but it's very simple. I use brackets. I love it. I learned this way back when Adobe brought it out. It's all the text out of all of the pages, and it's got markers in it to say whereabouts it got it from. This is aem-live home. All of the text. When I'm scraping, I know where I'm scraping, navigation, all those sort of things. So my all.out has given Claude knowledge about Franklin. In normal AI stuff, if you said to Claude, give me a React app, Claude knows all about React because there's millions and millions and millions of articles about React. So Claude will go and get some React stuff for you and put it together. Claude doesn't know about ADS. There's not millions of stuff out there, so you have to train it. When Claude is building React stuff, it doesn't know which version of React you're going to use. It doesn't know where to get good samples of React JavaScript. It doesn't know much about React. It just goes and samples the entire internet and comes back with things that other people have said, which is not the best way to make something like Claude work. The technique I'm showing here could be used to train Claude on a specific version of React with a specific bunch of repositories and a specific programming style, which makes it new language, any framework, anything. So this is my prompt. Create a Franklin block with images named image cycle. The first cell in the table is the table name. Subsequent rows contain a pick for element or an href for element. Extract the path to the image and use it as an image. Images are fully qualified URLs. Do not use create optimized picture. Use as is. Ensure that the image fits 400 pixels wide. On loading the images, randomize them. You can read this for yourself later. It's all in my blog. So I'm ready to go. Claude thinks hard because I've given it a big all.out file. So it has to process that first of all and understand everything that I've taught it about Franklin. It says we're going to create the block files 1, 2, 3. Let's start with the JavaScript. So it's writing JavaScript for me. Then it does the CSS. And then it's going to create a README file. As I mentioned before, every time I create a block, I always create a README, and the README is the documentation for the block. And this now tells us that it's done all of these things. This implementation creates, and it's repeated what I asked it to do. What I asked it to do, it meant. So if you go back, you've got to copy this one, paste it into your repository, copy this one, paste it into your repository, copy that one, paste it into your repository, and then you go to your repository and you can start testing it. Yeah, okay, it's great. You can see that Claude does understand runtime. And you can see here at the top, it's doing things my style. I always put the name of the thing that I've got so that if I see an extract, I know where it comes from. And it's following lots of nice rules. It's built a really nice piece of code, a really nice piece of CSS, and documentation. So, perfect. It works. Back to my slides. Slideshow away from current. So it works. This case I got in my screen here is create an accordion block. Did it. So it creates the files, the README, CSS, and JS. We have to copy and paste these into IDE. We've got to commit it. We've got to sync it to GitHub. We've got to create Google Docs, and we've got to test. Yeah. Ooh, okay. So I've got my next two slides in the wrong order. It should have had this one first. I have rehearsed this 4 times and I didn't spot that 4 times. We can use cursor. This is the URL to get a copy of cursor for yourself. What cursor does is it takes 3 files, a context file, a cursor rules file, pours them all together and gives you a finished product. Follows the roles of these 3 files. You build the files one at a time. The first one is the context file. This gives it the detail and the overarching framework and the development environment. This for me was aem-live, my blog, and the repository made up by the boilerplate plus the blocks that I built for my blog. That was the domain knowledge in the context file. Then you have the rules, the standard operation procedures. This is in Cursor, it's called .cursor rules. This specifies the project-specific requirements and coding standards. It bridges the gap between the context and the specific task. And finally, there's the prompt, which is the task ask. The specific task you want the AI to perform, and it details the exact requirements for each coding task within the project. So, demo time, yet again, unleashing AI's full potential. Let's see how far we can go. I'll begin by showing you how to set up Cursor, and then we'll do some demos inside Cursor, which will create whole components with documentation, samples, and tests. I'll do that image cycler that we just showed you in Claude. I'll do a LinkedIn profile grabber, and I might not do the LinkedIn style guide. I might take too long if I added that one in as well. So shut this down and bring up Cursor. Find my cursor. Got a lot of screens here. This is Cursor, which looks like and acts like Visual Studio code, but it's Visual Studio code on steroids. You can see that I've got my AEM up running, so I can do some stuff in here at the same time. And on the left, I've got all of the things that I'm working on. If I go into, Cursor settings, everything is like Visual Studio apart from this one thing here, cursor settings. Cursor settings are the things that are going to make the AI work. We begin with general. You have to have an account to get AI to work. You can try the free version of Cursor, but if you want to work, you have a login. So I pay my $20 a month, and I've got my login. You can import all of your settings, your extensions, your settings and key bindings from Visual Studio Code, which means that you've got no lag of transfer to a new IDE. How does this work? You're going to be working with all the plugins that you've had, all of the tools that you've had, all of the settings that you had, and you will be a very happy person. Then it asks for simple rules for AI. This is not a context file. This is not a standard operations procedure or a rules file, and it's not a prompt. It's something that gets sent with every single chat and session that you start up with Cursor. And there's some things in life that really, really bug me, and I don't like the use of .then in JavaScript. I prefer await, because .then gives you fallback hell, and await makes it much more readable. And we must always use the Airbnb style guide. Franklin code, Edge Delivery Services code, is checked against Airbnb when you push it to GitHub. So force the machine to always use that and create code that matches without me having to tell it every other time. When I've set up, oops, I've just switched it off. When I set up Franklin Cursor, you tell it to use Cursor rule files. If it's off, we will not include any Cursor rule files in your rules. That's a bit bad English. What it really means, if it's on, we will include it. So make sure that's on, and Cursor will send what's called a Cursor rules file every time you do a prompt or a project. Cursor rules is a .cursor rules hidden file. Here it is here, my example, rules to follow. I like to tell it about me at all points as well, because it will use created by, and it will use things like that. My name's Tom Cranstoun, and tell Cursor, as an expert developer specializing in Adobe Edge Delivery Services for Document Author, also known as Franklin, etc., etc., I give it the core concept. I give it the training documents. This is the rules. This is the standard operating procedures. This is what it's to do. And if it needs to find out about something in here, it must, if it's struggling, it will go and look at the context documents as a RAG, a retrieval augmented generation type structure. So these are the rules. The context is the encyclopedia that it looks up. So I tell it that I want things organized in directories. I want block name, block, readme, examples, CSVs, demos. How my JavaScript should be written. So I tell it how blocks are structured in a Google Doc. I tell it I want example files with these sort of things in it. I would like a demo file with these sort of things in it. I use a piece of metadata at the end of my Google Doc. So I tell it what the metadata looks like. And I'm telling it here, word cloud demo. I did a, is it in demo? Word cloud? No. I've got rid of my words there. Word Cloud demo. I created a demo for Word Cloud, and when I did this, I created all of the stuff and I pasted it back into my rules file. I tell it how JSON works. Although I got a blog article about how the JSON works, I also give it in the rules file how Edge Delivery Service JSON works, and I tell it how that works to a CSV file, which would let you create a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or a Google Doc from that JSON. I also tell it the best practices that I want to use. I tell it EDS specific features that I want to use. I want to use auto blocking. I want to use metadata handling. I want to use spreadsheet addressing. I tell it how to develop. I tell it once again to use the Airbnb linting style guide. Only use imports when the import will be used. I remember check this in the generated code and replace it. I tell it everything I want in English, and at the bottom I've given it, when providing images for a simple table, JSON or CSV file, select them from this list silently, and I give it some media that I've got in my blog. So Cursor Rules is the operating system for your AI. The context file is the encyclopedia that the AI will use if it's stuck and it's trying to find out a little bit more information about what it's to do. Finally, by saying include cursor rules, there's little bits in here about changing your editor settings and whether you want to be private or not. I am working on making cursor work totally locally with an LLM using this structure, so you will be 100% private and you can create code that will not be sent to Claude and we'll keep it all locally. But that's a topic for another day. Within Cursor, you get to choose which models, which LLM you want to use. In here, I have decided to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet. That is my favorite. I have tried all sorts. I've got local LLMs. I've bought into Copilot Plus and I bought into, I've done them all. Eventually, I chose Claude. So I've switched it on here. Everything else is switched off. You give it your key. If you want to do stuff on your own account rather than using Cursor's account, you can do that. Having put a key in here means it's available to me. And if I switch it on, I'm going to be paying for it with my Anthropic key. I have got a Cursor Pro subscription, and you do not need to use your own Anthropic key. I'm not involved. With that just now. That means that when I'm working in the IDE, I'm not using up my allowance. When I'm working in the browser, I'm using up my allowance. So I've got $20 worth of, or £20 worth of Claude to play with. You can also use Google or Azure LLM. Features. Cursor tab. This is, if you enable this, this is taking over from Copilot, and it does what Copilot would have done for you. You can do partial accepts, so fractions get offered to you as you type. You can ask for predictions, etc., etc. This is where the magic is. Composer. When you start up and have a brand new Cursor, Composer will be disabled. Even when you subscribe, Composer will still be disabled. You've got to go into the settings and enable it. And once you've done that, the magic happens, the real magic. Finally, code base indexing. You add documents to your Cursor. As I said, the context document, and this is what I've added here. My EDS notes are my encyclopedia of how EDS works with the repo and the blog posts. Everything's in there. Once you've added everything, you resync your index, and then everything's ready to go. So I'll shut that down. Now, over here, I've got my demos. Image cycle. This is the prompt that I showed you earlier, where I said to Claude, create me a block for Franklin. And it did. It ran this code. And at the end of the day, it gave me files which I had to copy paste and put into my GitHub repo. So now I don't need to copy paste. I just have prompts. I store all of my prompts in a prompts folder. I keep it in my repo. Prompts have become a valuable thing. It's a time thing, effort, getting prompts correct. Prompts are the new programming language. Prompts are programming in English. So I've got stuff for my demo. I've got stuff for work in progress, and I've got things that I've used and really working, and I'm quite happy with them. So I've got the prompt for image cycle. Go back here and I say Command I. I get the magic box. This little box here is the Composer prompt. And it doesn't look like it's going to do much, but I say at it will say what you want. You want files, folders, code, web, docs, Git, code base. What do you want to work with? I want to work with files. So it'll start looking through my files. And the last one I was on was image cycle. So that's very handy. We'll use that. So I've told it that I want to run that file as a command. That image cycle.md means read that file and do everything that's in it. So starting off a little bit like raw Clod, it's going to create the image cycle blocks. JS, read me an example, but I don't have to copy paste. It's actually putting it in to my folders in the right place. It still says applying down here because it's still working. Once it's finished, you can reject everything, you can accept everything, or you can ask it to do it again. So I'm going to accept everything. That's fine. Close my composer down. So it's written the stuff that you saw earlier. I asked it to create this time inside cursor. It's given me the CS, it's given me the JS, it's given me a README, which tells you how it works, and an example. That example is a little bit of Markdown. So those things are all very useful to have when you're developing. Next thing you have to do, of course, is commit it. So I shall commit that, update the image cycle block with rotating set of, go on, sync. Oh, I've done that. Now I need to go into my example. I will copy that, Command A, Command C. I bring up my browser and I go to my blank untitled document. So I'm starting to write, and you can see that I've got my sidekick in. So I'm doing a Franklin document, and I've just copied that bit of Markdown. If I right-click, paste from Markdown, it has put in there the image cycle block with image URLs. It should have done that. Part of my training, I need to merge all of these cells together. How do I do this quickly, guys? Demos don't always work the way that you want them to work. And I've rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. No. Was I wrong? Oh, gosh. My image cycler isn't going to cycle, and I don't know what I've done wrong. Okay, demos. Can we edit this bit out?
Yeah.
Don't tell me the rest of my demos are going to do this to me now. Okay. It was running so good. I'm so sorry. Go back here. I go back to my prompts, and I'll shut all of these down. I'll go newsfeed.md. I showed you this roughly in my goal. And this is a screenshot from Microsoft Edge and a prompt that says, I want you to create that. Let's see what happens. Clear out the old. Ooh. Clear out my old prompt and say at newsfeed.markdown. it has decided that it needs to create more than one block. It's going to create a weather block, a tabs block, an articles block.
Tom, a clarifying question. Did it because
Yes.
okay, this is awesome. Because your just textual part of the prompt is already short, and I think it doesn't mention
Yes.
anything of other, so it's cool to see that.
Yes, it actually looks at the image and it works out what you're trying to do. If you try to put this into Claude Raw says, I can't create something that's copyrighted. And you say, well, make something similar to it then, because it knows that this belongs to Microsoft. But by feeding it in through the training, it's much, much happier. Okay, so my image cycler didn't work. And I'm showing you once again that it's doing the tables and it's doing the readmes and it's doing the example CSV. It's doing some example JSON for it to feed these articles in. Done the CSS. It's done everything that we asked. It's very, very clever. But unfortunately, I'm not going to run a demo of what this does at the end of the day because I think I'm going to have a problem. Let me do my final demo. We've got 5 minutes left, well, 10 minutes left. My final demo, which I just quickly run through, which in my prompts, you said that the, and you were quite right to say so, that the prompt wasn't very detailed. Todd was instructed to look at the image and it determines things from the image as well. If I were to ask it to recreate the text that was in the image, it would actually do that and feed that into the JSON that it created at the same time. I have got a thing called import design. Import design is much, much more detailed. This is the whole point of prompt engineering. You give it more detail and it will do more work for you. So Command I at import design. It just read it. It didn't do it. Oh. Kill that. Right. At import design.md. Okay, so it's now doing it. When you don't clear the previous prompt, it gets mixed up and starts to do both together.
Okay.
Because I forgot to clear the previous prompt, now it's still doing the newsfeed. Oh, okay, demo page is called newsfeed, but everything else is the thing that I asked it to do for the import styling. I'll accept all of that. And the demo page hasn't been given a proper name. So this setup provides a starting point for the import styling block. Follow similar steps to create other blocks. Code hasn't finished. You have to say continue. This is something that we'll all be used to when we are using AI on the web interface. To create the necessary, and it keeps on going round and round and round until it gets to the place where it needs to be, and it tells you that it's finished creating. Now, it took me about 20 minutes to finish doing this by going continue, continue, continue. I can't possibly make us all wait until I get to the end. So what I've done, if I close all, I've created a template, which is what Claude and I created earlier. In templates, I've got this. I'll shut this down. This is what the prompt created for me earlier. Command A, Command C. I now go back to my blank page. Command A, and paste this in. What Claude created for me as a demo was this page, which I have not allowed Claude to go through and create all of the blocks. You'd have to do continue, continue, continue. If I were to do that, I would end up with this output from that Claude page. I asked it to take a design from LinkedIn, turn it into a profile demo in a LinkedIn style. So I'd just like to go back to my slide set and away from current slide. That's the end of my demo piece. When I first did this, it wasn't doing the right thing. It was moving things like the John Doe to the right of the image, etc. So you have to go through, review, repair, and repeat. I told Claude, the text in the import profile summary block is to the right and below the profile picture. It should be below, left aligned within the margins of the block. Certainly, I'll modify it, and it actually does the work. And then I end up with a version where it's correct. I'm trying to say here, coding is gone, but developing has not. AI will change software creation. The essence of development remains the same. The role of developers will shift, and our expertise will be more vital than ever. Tomorrow's developers are going to architect solutions, design frameworks, design rules, craft precise prompts, review AI-generated code, conduct thorough testing, iterate to perfection, document, present, release, and maintain. There's a technical acumen with strategic thinking. This ensures that AI becomes a powerful tool in a developer's arsenal rather than a threat. AI isn't going to replace us, it's going to make our job different. Modern development flows: plan, prompt, consult with the AI, verify, synchronize, document, test, iterate. If you give it simple prompts, you'll get simple results. Make a carousel block. You have not told it what you want. You haven't told it how to deal with errors, how to create the example tables. You don't get a carousel, but it will need a lot of work. Add detail to the prompt. And this one has got enough detail to give me what I want, but it still doesn't give me the demo and the documentation. Add even more details through the cursor rules. You'll get those bits. Structure your prompt. Clearly state the goal. Include who you are, what you want, any copyright details, what you want with display, interactivity, styling, etc. In the cursor rules, add as much detail as you need for your project. My private version, which I haven't shown you here, is 4 pages long with sample JSON code layer, image lists, and everything else I want the AI to know. Every project should have a distinct cursor rules file, and it's sent with every prompt. In your prompts, cover all the essential aspects, use logical sessions, consider performance, accessibility, error handling, and responsiveness. Get the AI to provide documentation and examples. Your prompts are now valuable. Put it in Git. Cursor or any AI is a powerful tool, but you've got to review it. And finally, what am I going to do next? I'm going to adapt this approach for AEM as a cloud service crosswalk, universal editor, and the OSG environment. I want to leverage this and automate coding for everything that AEM does. I want to integrate these improvements and optimize the content delivery pipeline. This will significantly boost efficiency in managing complex, multifaceted AEM projects. And the thing that went wrong during my demo was that I suddenly had an epiphany and asked my cursor rules to decorate the columns with the names of the columns, and my demo failed. I know exactly where I went wrong. I know exactly what I have to change in my cursor rules to make my demo perfect again, and I apologize for that. I'm willing to give anybody a private preview and show you how it can work with the blocks that you design. That's the end of my talk, discussion time on open floor, for people to have any questions.
Super, thank you, Tom. That was really great.
Yeah, fantastic.
Now Lars is here, and I think he has some good questions, I hope.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think we can. So one of the things that I found essential and surprising with Cursor is that it actually enables a debugging and iteration flow. Right. So from your examples, you're providing a lot of upfront context, which allows it to create good things in the first shot. But in my experience, right, in development, you need to iterate over time, and in that role, one of the things that, especially in web development, that AI cannot do yet is critically look at the creation, right? So it can't browse the page, it can't look at the page with the same eyes that an experienced web developer would look at.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to give a full demonstration, of course, 50 minutes. If I no, I've turned off my camera, I want to do the streaming. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah, screen.
Okay, so within Cursor, Command K brings up a chat.
Yeah.
Expert, which will look at things inside your code, and there is a chat window. Split edges are right. I didn't. Okay. I didn't rehearse this bit. When you don't rehearse bits, things don't work well when you rehearse. In here beta, if you do an AI review, you can have Cursor be the reviewer of your code in line as you write it. It does have the debug cycle. If I've got mistakes and things in my code, Cursor will let me debug it, step through and change the code. The method for debugging is quite different. If I just play from the current slide, go back. This is me interacting with the page and the code, stepping through the composer. Once I say accept all, I might say I want John Doe to be in italic. Just type it in, it'll do it. It goes background.
Yeah.
You tell it that the code isn't working. Please add debug statements. You give it debug statements, and then it says, please give me the console log. And then it goes, aha, I know what's wrong, and we'll fix your code. When you get errors in the code, you can ask it to fix on the fly. It is really, really clever.